Oh, M.A.S.K, very cool. Somebody stop me. Smoke it.
No, not that M.A.S.K.
Oh. Oh, M.A.S.K. Got it. What do you say about a cartoon that was definitely designed to separate your parents from their money and almost definitely designed to be forgotten, but that you still remember? What do you say about an extended toy commercial that makes you dream? Because you can still feel those toys in your hands and maybe even visit them in your childhood closet. What do you say about a show you loved more than it loved you? Because it was motivated by masters of marketing and you had no idea what marketing meant at that time. As it turns out, you can say a whole lot. Here's everything you didn't know about M.A.S.K. In 1985, M.A.S.K, or Mobile Armored Strike Kommand, that's Command with a K, came syndicated to TV screens across America. The show chronicles the heroics of the aforementioned M.A.S.K, a team of hunky, block-shaped do-gooders equipped with futuristic weaponry and transforming vehicles. The M.A.S.K team fights an axis of comparably tech-savvy villains called V.E.N.O.M, or Vicious Evil Network of Mayhem. That sounds a little like the enemies of G.I. Joe, C-O-B-R-A, Cobra.
Cobra, attack!
And frankly, this whole thing sounds a lot like Transformers, too. You know, come to think of it, the M.A.S.K heroes have secret identity stuff going on, and flashy animated transformations. Wait a minute, is M.A.S.K just a huge ripoff of every other 80s cartoon? You bet your ass it is. You see, M.A.S.K belongs to that special genre of same but different ideas that try to ride the wave of an existing profitable trend without much upfront additional creativity. In other words, it's television. For example, remember Nicolas Cage's Stolen Following hot on the heels of Liam Neeson's Taken? Neither do I. I don't remember that movie.
Drop the bag.
It's my lunch.
M.A.S.K was an attempt to cash in on the popularity of shows and toys like G.I. Joe, Transformers, She-Ra, and He-Man by copying their tropes to a T. Toys, in fact, were the whole reason for the cartoon. The story was designed around a line of toys, and from day one, the intention was to show kids a cartoon that would get them to ask their parents to buy them the awesome transforming vehicle they just saw in that afternoon's episode. So yes, M.A.S.K is somewhat of a corporate con job. But honestly, it's still awesome and is undoubtedly hilarious.
That's your opinion.
And as we'll explore, the mostly hands-off approach taken with a show whose only purpose was to move merchandise actually allowed for some really wild creativity along the way.
Who are you?
The most powerful military general of the ages, Julius Caesar.
So let's break down the show in a little more detail. First off, who makes up M.A.S.K? The team is anchored by Matt Tracker, a Bruce Wayne type with seemingly infinite resources and a body that looks like it's made out of Minecraft blocks.
My name is Tracker, Matt Tracker.
When disaster strikes, he's the one who sounds the alarm. His home AI, aka Siri's great-grandma.
Okay, calling great-grandma.
Siri, I didn't want to talk to you right now, okay?
Fine.
Okay, bye. Tells Tracker which M.A.S.K agents are right for the mission, and the alert goes out via a prototype Apple Watch.
Hondo McLean, weapons specialist, tactical strategist, vehicle code name, firecracker.
Just gonna abandon those students, huh? And waste that sweet, sweet pizza dough? And you're supposed to be the good guys? Good guys don't waste pizza dough. There are more M.A.S.K agents than we have time to mention, but the show is notable for its inclusion of a diverse cast of heroes.
You got the scarab. Sure did. And as one of my honorable ancestors once said, finders keepers.
Although they were voiced, accents and all, by one white guy, so oops. More on that shortly. Then there's Scott Tracker, Matt's son. Scott sometimes assists on M.A.S.K's missions.
Scott to M.A.S.K! Scott to M.A.S.K! Come in, M.A.S.K!
Isn't that against child labor laws? And most of the time goofs around with and/or humiliates his egg-shaped robot sidekick, T-Bob.
All right, I won again.
I hate this game. I quit.
T-Bob, you gotta get some self-esteem. In one of the show's more original creative flourishes, the M.A.S.K agents get their futuristic powers from, you guessed it, masks. And for some reason, they all have to put them on while sitting in an ominous circle in Professor X's vacation home. V.E.N.O.M is the mirror image of M.A.S.K, just evil. At the top of the poisonous food chain is the porn-mustachioed Miles Mayhem. Porn mustache and kind of a porn name. How about that? It's kind of fun. He hatches the schemes and gives the orders, and beneath him is a rogues gallery of super-powered thieves, con artists, bombers, and criminals. M.A.S.K overall is pretty light on female representation, although we've got to give a shout out to V.E.N.O.M agent Vanessa Warfield, who somehow makes a blaring red mullet look, honestly, pretty hot. And I never thought I'd say that, but she looks good.
I'm just dying for a big old ice cream cone. You know where I could find one?
So, what do we get in each M.A.S.K episode? First things first, we get a theme song, and it's an interesting one.
Masked crusaders working overtime, fighting crime, secret raiders who will neutralize as soon as they arrive.
Okay, we gotta take a closer look at these lyrics. All right. Masked crusaders. Check, we got that in the show. Working overtime. Overtime, okay, the pizzeria is the main job, so that's fair. Fighting crime. Fighting crime. So that's fighting crime, fighting crime. Is that like babies having babies? Fighting crime. Okay, it continues. No one knows what lies behind the masquerades. Okay, that doesn't even make sense. Masquerade just sort of has the word mask in it, sort of. M-A-S-Q-U-E. Okay, we should just move on from that little interlude. After the theme song, we're treated to a 20-minute adventure where V.E.N.O.M does something bad and M.A.S.K has to stop them. Like when V.E.N.O M stole the ink off of Swiss paper money.
Your money,
What is this? The ink has disappeared.
Or when V.E.N.O M abducts a dinosaur boy. I'm having Bambi trauma. Or when V.E.N.O M commits good old-fashioned charity fraud.
V.E.N.O M spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a public relations campaign to convince the world it's rehabilitated.
The dialogue in general is about as smooth as the dialogue in infomercials and pornography.
Please hurry, Mr. Tracker. The radioactive power in that meteor is the key to my new life-saving technique.
But I actually mean that as a compliment. Go to any M.A.S.K episode, jump to a random part, and see if the first line of dialogue you hear doesn't make you laugh.
What an ingenious plan this was. I am continually impressed by my brilliance.
Somebody's gotta be.
I can't think of a single other show that's true for. If the animation looks a little cheap and static, that's because it was a little cheap and static.
That's for sure.
It was all outsourced to multiple studios in Asia who were given a very short timeline on which to work. The first season ran for 65... Wait, is that right? That's a lot. 65 crime-fighting episodes before a 10-episode second season. And the second season left crime-fighting behind in order to make a full pivot to racing?
It feels good to hear people cheering for us.
I mean, I get it. The epic struggle between good and evil takes a lot of work, and sometimes you just want to go fast.
Something Miles never learned. In the end, when all other things are equal, good will always win over evil.
Okay, maybe you can do both. As an extra treat, every M.A.S.K episode ends with a wholesome, real-life lesson for kids featuring Scott Tracker.
When you run after a ball, always stop at the street and look both ways until the coast is clear.
There's a fascinating political explanation for why those are in there. It turns out that the FCC used to ban shows for children that were considered direct extensions of advertising content. So you couldn't have a show like M.A.S.K that was a show designed specifically to sell toys. But the Reagan administration tore down this regulation in 1981, and the compromise the FCC extracted was that these ad-motivated cartoons had to include an educational message. So let's talk a little more about those toys that were the motivating force for the show. There were 4 series of M.A.S.K toys, 2 coinciding with the first season. The third You know, it's a shame that I have to talk about them in the abstract. If only they were actually here and we could play with them. Pretty cool, right? I know. Yeah, we got $50 worth of M.A.S.K toys off of eBay. They could be yours. After we're done with them, I would check. We got so much cool stuff here. We got Thunderhawk, most important, Matt Tracker's car. Very cool. We got, I think this is Stinger, if I'm not mistaken. He could tow anyone out. We got some Venom vehicles here, very cool and also very sinister. And most importantly, other than Thunderhawk, we also have some guys. So we got Floyd Malloy. We also got Sly Rax. You could very easily choke on these. This looks like he could be a tiny little piece of candy. Pretty good for 30 years later, you know? They held up in someone's garage or basement, so not a bad investment. Okay, but that's enough toying around. Back to the main video. Cool, right? I know. Just as unusual as the show itself is the story of how it got made and who was involved. M.A.S.K was written by a huge, unwieldy stable of writers who never even necessarily met each other. This process was overseen by story editor Terrence McDonald, who was a writer on the original Battlestar Galactica. IMDb credits 28 writers on the show, which sounds like a lot, but then again, there were 65 episodes in the first season. The writers on M.A.S.K had 1 week per episode, and the only guidance they got was the list of characters and what toys, vehicles, that episode had to feature. The rest was up to them, and they were free to invent the rules of the M.A.S.K world as they went along. So that's where we get Disappearing Money Inc. and stuff like this.
I thought I got rid of!
What?
Oh! Ah!
Some really cool writers worked on M.A.S.K. S.S. Wilson has a credit on 2 episodes, and he went on to write Wild Wild West. And honestly, this thing is right out of M.A.S.K.
He has an 80-foot tarantula.
Gina Bakar, who wrote 6 episodes, doesn't write much TV these days, but she's a very successful erotic fiction writer. Ray Dryden, who wrote a whopping 10 episodes, was the supervising executive producer on 1979's The Clonus Horror. Okay, maybe that's not as impressive as the other ones, I just really wanted to tell someone that this movie exists.
Clonus, a place where science and nightmare merge.
And maybe most intriguing of all, none other than TV comedy icon Chuck Lorre is credited as a writer. Now, we looked into this and couldn't find Lorre confirming this anywhere, but he has talked a lot in interviews about being broke in his early career and taking writing work he doesn't care to remember. Well, too bad, Chuck, because we demand to know that people have a right.
We will reveal the secret.
And then there's the cast. Oh, the cast, the 7-person cast. Yes, that's right, there were 4 times as many writers on M.A.S.K as there were actors. Doug Stone voiced the majority of the characters, including almost all the M.A.S.K heroes, regardless of their race, ethnicity, or accent. So maybe not so cool in 2019, but in 1985, that was called ka-ching! We only have to write 1 paycheck. Doug Stone is a literal voice acting legend, not only because he's been lending his voice to iconic anime, video games, and cartoons for the last 50 years, but because he voiced Psycho Mantis in Metal Gear Solid.
I'm Psycho Mantis! That's right. This is no trick. It's true power.
Sharon Noble voiced almost every woman and child on the show, except Scott Tracker, who was voiced by Brennan Thicke, son of Alan Thicke, and brother of Robin Thicke. Brennan was simultaneously lending his voice to the titular Dennis the Menace in the 80s cartoon of the iconic Troublemaker. Dennis and Scott Tracker were the only roles Brennan ever played. He's now an LA real estate agent.
Where's my house?
The house movers took it. I told him yours was the house they were looking for.
Most of the world grew up and left M.A.S.K behind. When asked about their work on the show today, a lot of the creatives can't remember much. And while Transformers and G.I. Joe might still ring a bell to most kids today, few to none know what M.A.S.K is, or was.
You can't be serious.
M.A.S.K did extend beyond the show a few years through comic books and video games. And there is a film adaptation of M.A.S.K in development right now with Fate of the Furious director F. Gary Gray attached as part of Hasbro's planned cinematic universe. So that could give M.A.S.K a resurgence, although Hasbro's plans remain up in the air. But whatever happens, M.A.S.K will always have a special place in the hearts of the kids who watched it. Sure, it may not have been the fanciest show on TV, and in retrospect, it might not have been the most original either.
Does that sound familiar to anyone?
But we didn't let that bother us. We met it halfway with our imaginations. The truth is that the adventures in M.A.S.K's 75-episode run are only a small part of the story besides the countless adventures we took with our friends, some toys, and our minds. Yes, even if those adventures lined the pockets of Kenner execs. So, thanks M.A.S.K. Your theme song says no one knows what lies behind the masquerades, but I think I know the answer. It was us. Aww. What are your fondest memories of M.A.S.K? Let us know in the comments.
Now, let's get out of here!